And here's the latest from Adam Schefter on the Davante Adams trade train. Davante Adams' wish list at the top have been none other than, as you'd expect, the New York Jets and his old buddy Aaron Rodgers. A reunited group between the two would be much aplenty. And then the New Orleans Saints, Derek Carr, former teammate of the Vegas Raiders. Those two teams atop Davante Adams' wish list when it comes to being traded. Schefter did also add that one team not expected to be involved is the Kansas City Chiefs, but he just says that, and things can change over the course of 24, 48 hours, what have you, as we welcome in Brandon Anderson to talk more about this Davante Adams trade extravaganza that's been going on. Brandon, we're going to draft teams. You're going to give me the best spot you think he's going to end up in. I'm going to come back at you a little bit from time to time. I hope you do the same here. It's supposed to be fun. We're talking about Davante Adams, an all-pro receiver, ending up in one of the best situations possible. So I'll kick it to you first. Where are you headed for your first pick for Davante?
Yeah, I mean, number one is pretty chalk here, right? Like, this could be like a one-team draft. If we're really being honest, it's got to be the Jets, right? The Aaron Rodgers buddy reunion tour. Look, Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson would be sick. Like, that would be so much fun. And the truth is, they need him, right? Mm-hmm. They actually need the help. Their weapons have been really lacking. I think Breece Hall has been pretty disappointing, especially for fantasy owners out there. But receiving-wise, Garrett Wilson's great. No problems with Garrett Wilson. The problem is, the defense knows that too, and that's really the only guy they have to worry about. So instead, we're getting like 5, 6, 7 targets a game to Allen Lazard. Do we even remember he was in the league while Rodgers was hurt? Like, this is just a guy that is buddies with Rodgers, so he's there. Mike Williams is injured. He's not really doing much. They need another guy. We know how Rodgers likes his guys. We know, like, that's the whole concept. The Jets are already in on the Rodgers experience. They're in on this team. They need some help. It just seems too obvious, right?
It really does. Listen, I can't push back too much on this one. Like, it really feels like Hackett's there in New York for a reason. Aaron Rodgers. So them getting Davante Adams makes sense. They need the help for Garrett Wilson. You're right. He's been extremely quiet in the opening weeks. But again, when you're completely the sole focus of this offense, taking away him, you're left with Allen Lazard. You're not going to be left with much. Mike Will, I will add, has looked better. He's looking like he's getting healthier. But again, having him as just a deep threat alongside Adams and Wilson will add a completely different element to the Jets offense. And yeah, I think that this one's the pretty obvious and one. We could have just ended the video right here. All right, he's going to the Jets. But how about another team in the AFC East? I'm actually really intrigued by the Buffalo Bills, and I don't know if they can fit this with their cap and stuff, but it feels like Davante Adams going to the Buffalo Bills is like the final infinity stone for Thanos. We have Josh Allen's legs. We have Khalil Shakir, who's been great. The safety valve of Dalton Kincaid. James Cook has been terrific. It feels like the last guy left is developing and having a wide receiver one. Mac Hollins is not it. Like, the guy's running around barefoot and not catching passes. They need a guy like Davante Adams that can come in, cement himself for 100-plus yards a game. We know what Diggs is capable. We saw with Diggs what Allen is capable with a real wide receiver one. I think they need that to just take their offense to the next level. I mean, listen, they don't even need him, and they're probably one of the best teams in football, but getting him takes to another level. So I think the Buffalo Bills here could, if they can kind of make it work with the cap, that addition of Davante Adams takes them to, the Super Bowl favorites. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know with the Bills because isn't this sort of what they wanted, right? They chose to move on from Diggs. They wanted to have this kind of like put together group. They got first rounder Keon Coleman. He made a couple of big catches, even in the blowout to the Ravens. I think what's interesting here is the timing, right? Because you mentioned Stephon Diggs. Well, guess who the Bills are playing this week? And guess what? What if Diggs comes out and drops a giant game? What if the Bills lose 2 games in a row to 2 of their top AFC contenders? Now the narrative swings a little bit. It's like, I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't have moved on from Diggs. Maybe we should go get another receiver to replace him like Davante Adams. So I think you got the narrative swing here. I like it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And listen, Diggs was a bit of a diva in Buffalo. We kind of saw that down the stretch. Davante Adams is also one right now based on the way he's acting in Vegas. But the difference is that, Vegas is a trash can of a team, and the Bills are, one of the best in football. But the third best option, or your second favorite, I guess, option for Davante Adams is who, Brandon?
I gotta go against Adam Schefter here. I'm gonna take the Chiefs. I just feel like this is such an obvious fit where to me, this is about Rashee Rice. I think Rashee Rice, we don't know yet what's happening with him. Really weird that it's been like half a week now and we don't have clear injury news. Certainly seems like he's out probably for the season as far as we can tell. And don't forget, no Hollywood Brown maybe till the playoffs, no Isaiah Pacheco till later on. The Chiefs just don't have a lot of weapons right now. I have a ranking of just kind of skill players, and the Chiefs are about 5th to 7th from the bottom of the league now that these guys are out. For reference, I have them below Pittsburgh and Carolina. That's not what you want for Patrick Mahomes on a Super Bowl year, trying to go a third time in a row. I think Rashee Rice, if he is out, is a really big loss for them. They built the offense out of him, and Travis Kelce has not done a lot yet this season. They were really doing a lot with Rashee Rice. They need something here. Now, look, it's in the division. Are the Raiders really going to help the Chiefs? I get it. Like, that's why this is going to leak out, that there's no way they'll do it, but stranger things have happened. You know, why would we give Patrick Mahomes finally a Tyreek Hill replacement? Very different receiver, but man, that'd be scary.
Listen, it would be scary. It makes sense that the Chiefs are going to add at receiver. I do find it a little hard that the Raiders are just going to be like, here, take Davante Adams, unless they get something more than just the second that they're asking for. It almost feels like the Chiefs are more likely, I think, to get, an Amari Cooper or maybe even Tyreek Hill if the Dolphins are like, well, maybe we have to completely rebrand, redo everything with Tua's uncertainty that's been happening along the lines there, and they look absolutely awful with Snoop Huntley, Skylar Thompson, whatever they throw out. But it would be a mega super team if they're able to replace Rashee Rice with, look what we found, Davante Adams. But my next team is going to follow Adam Schefter. You went against him. I'm going to go with him. Why not the New Orleans Saints here? Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Davante Adams. I think that's, arguably one of the best receiving rooms in football if they add Davante Adams. Rashid Shaheed is an elite deep threat, but that's kind of where he thrives. Chris Olave has an unreal separation score, and then you add in Davante Adams. Not only will that play action game that Kubiak likes to bring out be even more dominant, having Davante Adams and another receiver on the field, but I think it also helps with Alvin Kamara, Derek Carr having his boy. We already know how good and how happy Davante Adams is when Derek Carr is throwing him the football, the Fresno State connection. He gets fed a lot, and that's been one of the things that he's been upset about in Vegas is that his quarterbacks can't throw a football 10 yards, let alone to him accurately. So I think New Orleans is worth a look here. They're 2-2, should be 3-1. That game against the Falcons, they got a bit unfortunate with a couple of defensive touchdowns, but I think that this team has a lot to be happy about, and that they are kind of a contender this year, could make the playoffs, and getting Davante Adams takes them to that next level of actually being a playoff team in a pretty bad South. What are your thoughts on the Saints?
Yeah, I think the Saints are interesting. They're a team that 2 weeks ago, they were the talk of the town, right? They come out, they drop 40 plus a couple games in a row to start the year. Clint Kubiak, will he even make it through the season? Let's give him a head coaching job right now, right? And now suddenly 2 weeks later, like, well, they're terrible again. Well, no, they're not terrible. They're injured. All their guys are injured. They're losing 2 offensive linemen. Kamara's playing hurt. Olave's playing hurt. Now Taysom Hill is hurt. The defense is getting hurt. I think the Saints are actually looking pretty good still. They're a team that I'm looking for some futures on. I would be curious if we could get some truth serum. I know Derek Carr would like to play with Davante Adams again. Are we positive Davante Adams would like to play with Derek Carr? I'd like to know. I will say this. For a little reverse slander here, Derek Carr goes to Kansas City Monday night. If the Saints get the win, as they've looked good, and they're 3-2, and then you give them Davante Adams, I think there's a 65-1 MVP ticket out there. I am seriously considering. Carr's been top 5 in EPA and CPOE. Those are good metrics for him. He's been really good. I think that would not be as outlandish as it seems.
Wow, that is very interesting. And if they do get the win, they have looked good. They're more than capable. The Chiefs also have kind of looked shaky down the stretch. Hence, the addition of Davante Adams would definitely help them on that front. It'll be interesting to see. And if they beat the Chiefs and then add Adams, it will be another level for New Orleans. But Brandon, the number 5 team for Davante Adams is who?
I'm going off the board here. I haven't heard this team even really mentioned at all, but I'm going to go with the team that we might think is the best team in the league right now. Give me the Baltimore Ravens. How about a sleeper here? To me, this is shades of Anquan Bolden. This is shades of Derek Mason. This is kind of how Baltimore does business, right? They don't necessarily go and get the diva in prime receiver. But how about the guy that's been really good, that's at the end of his career? But what if he's not at the end of his career? What if he got like 5 more good years and we can just have this like veteran solid target? Those are guys that just did good yeoman's work, gave good years to Baltimore. Give Lamar Jackson a real target for once. Enough Zay Flowers, all right? Zay Flowers for the bubble screens and all the little stuff. Enough with the tight ends. Give him an actual receiver with Lamar's running, with Derrick Henry, with the defense and the coaching staff. This has to be the Super Bowl favorite if they get Davante Adams. They might be anyways, but I don't know what you're doing to stop the team after that.
Yeah, I think the addition definitely makes them the Super Bowl favorite. But then, like, does Davante Adams want to go to Baltimore just to block on the outside like he's been doing in Vegas? Because they turned Mark Andrews from a tight end into a left tackle or right tackle. All of a sudden, Davante Adams might be just blocking rather than actually running routes. You would think in theory they add him, maybe things change. The offense should be passing more. But when you have Derrick Henry and he's looked that good, do you really need a guy like Davante Adams? That will be definitely interesting to see. That's my little pushback, is like, maybe he doesn't want to be blocking all the time, or, it depends what Baltimore says with him. But I got one more, just a bonus team to throw out. Those are the top five that we drafted. But this is a team that we didn't expect to be all of a sudden in the mix, and now they are. How about the Washington Commanders? I mean, Jaden Daniels looks absolutely incredible through the opening month of the season. They have Terry McLaurin. They don't have a wide receiver too. Right now, it's just like Noah Brown, Luke McCaffrey, Diami Brown. They don't really have someone else. And listen, I understand it's like, well, Jaden Daniels, Brian Robinson, they have an elite run RPO offense. But, I mean, LSU with Jaden Daniels, they had multiple elite receivers. I think adding Davante Adams could take this team to the next level. And we always talked about, Brandon, you came on earlier this season, teams going from, last to first in the division, being able to win it. It feels like the Commanders are kind of on that path, and then all of a sudden you add Davante Adams to the mix, and this offense that's already been amazing just gets even better. What are your thoughts on that, or is this a little bit outlandish?
I don't think it's so outlandish. I think it depends on where Washington thinks they are on their curve. I think that this was supposed to be a rebuilding year, but maybe it's not. Dallas and Philly look worse than we expected so far. Washington certainly looks a lot better. Maybe they think this is their time. I think it's a little early still. The back half of their schedule coming up is going to be pretty tough. I guess what I'd like to know is, Davante Adams, how do you like bubble screens? Is that your game? Is that what you want to do? Just catch 3-yard passes and be a yak player from now on? This to me is like, this is a Cliff Kingsbury thing. I know it's been great. It's been fun. It's wonderful. When your buddy is like eyeing the girl that he wants to go out with, and you're just like, but we know some things about her. Like, that's Cliff Kingsbury in this. Like, Davante, don't go out with Cliff Kingsbury. This is not the spot for you, my friend. It's not going to age well. It's been a great month. September was fun. Just no, we know better than this. Don't do Cliff Kingsbury to yourself.
The honeymoon has been great for Washington, but I guess that phase might end soon, and then we're looking at the Commanders being like, 4, 5, and 9, and we're like, all right, well, maybe Cliff Kingsbury, actually Cliff Kingsburied, but only time will tell on this front. Brandon Anderson, appreciate you hopping on, and excited to see what happens with Davante. Maybe we had this whole discussion just for him to stay in Vegas. Who knows?
Thanks for having me.